Christie's, founded in Britain, is a multinational art business and a fine arts auction house, currently the world's largest, with sales for the first half of 2012 some $3.5 billion, representing the highest total for a corresponding period in company and art market history. Christie's has its main headquarters in London on King Street and Rockefeller Plaza in New York. It is owned by Groupe Artémis, the holding company of François-Henri Pinault. History = founding = The official company literature states that founder James Christie conducted the first sale in London, England, on December 5, 1766, and the earliest auction catalogue the company retains is from December 1766. However, other sources note that James Christie rented auction rooms from 1762, and newspaper advertisements of Christie's sales dating from 1759 have also been traced. Christie soon established a reputation as a leading auction house, and took advantage of London's newfound status as the major centre of the international art trade after the French Revolution. From 1859, the company was called Christie, Manson and Woods. In 1958, it established its first overseas office, by placing a representative in Rome. The first overseas sales room opened in Geneva, where Christie's holds jewellery auctions. 1973 €1999 Christie's was a public company, listed on the London Stock Exchange from 1973 to 1999. In 1974, Joe Floyd was appointed chairman of Christie's. He served as chairman of Christie's International plc. From 1976 to 1988, until handing over to Lord Carrington, and later was a non-executive member of the board of directors until 1992. The auction house's subsidiary Christie's International Incorporated held its first sale in the United States in 1977, 13 years later than Sotheby's. Christie's growth was slow but steady since 1989, when it had 42% of the auction market. In 1990, the company reversed a long-standing policy and guaranteed a minimum price for a collection of artworks in its May auctions. In 1996, the auction house's sales eclipsed Sotheby's for the first time since 1954. However, its profits did not grow at the same pace. From 1993 through 1997, Christie's annual pre-tax profits were about $60 million, whereas Sotheby's annual pre-tax profits were about $265 million for those years. In 1993, Christie's paid $10.9 million for the London gallery Spink & Sons, which specialised in Oriental art and British paintings. The gallery was run as a separate entity from the auction house. The company bought Ledger Gallery for $3.3 million in 1996, and merged it with Spink to become Spink Ledger. Spink Ledger was closed in 2002. To make itself competitive with Sotheby's in real estate, Christie's bought Great Estates in 1995, then the largest network of independent real estate brokers in North America, changing its name to Christie's Great Estates Incorporated. 1998 takeover. In December 1997, under the chairmanship of Lord Hindlip, Christie's put itself on the auction block, but after 2 months of negotiations with the consortium-led investment firm SBC Warburg Dillon Reed, it did not attract a bid high enough to accept. In May 1998, François-Henri Pinault's holding company, Groupe Artémis S.A., first bought 29.1% of the company for $243.2 million, and subsequently purchased the rest of it in a deal that valued the entire company at $1.2 billion. The company has since not been reporting profits, though it gives sale totals twice a year. Its policy, in line with UK accounting standards, is to convert non-UK results using an average exchange rate weighted daily by sales throughout the year. In 2002, Christie's France held its first auction in Paris. Like Sotheby's, Christie's became increasingly involved in high-profile private transactions. In 2006, Christie's offered a reported $21 million guarantee to the Donald Judd Foundation and displayed the artist's works for 5 weeks in an exhibition that later won an AICA award for Best Installation in an Alternative Space. In 2007 the auction house brokered a $68 million deal that transferred Thomas E. Kinsey's The Gross Clinic from the Jefferson Medical College at the Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia to joint ownership by the Philadelphia Museum of Art and the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts. That same year, Haunch of Venison, a contemporary art gallery which since 2002 had successfully conducted backroom sales of secondary market works by major artists such as Francis Bacon, Andy Warhol, and Damien Hirst from its locations in London and Tsar One Quarter Rich, became a subsidiary of Christie's International plc. Under the original deal, the gallery was meant to be the channel for all of Christie's private client business as well as the focus of its primary trade. Also, the auction house originally announced that Haunch employees could not bid at auction because of conflicts of interest or issues of market manipulation, but later abandoned this rule. While Christie's eventually retained the brand name and repositioned Haunch as purely a primary-focused gallery, any secondary market activities were taken over by the auction house's post-war and contemporary department. Today, the gallery continues to operate as an independent company in London and New York, and again handles all of his secondary market activities itself. On December 28, 2008, the Sunday Times reported that Pinault's debts left him considering the sale of Christie's and that a number of private equity groups were thought to be interested in its acquisition. In January 2009, Christie's was reported to employ 2,100 people worldwide, though an unspecified number of staff and consultants were soon to be cut due to a worldwide downturn in the art market. Later news reports said that 300 jobs would be cut. With sales for premier impressionist, modern, and contemporary artworks tallying only $248.8 million in comparison to $739 million just a year before. A second round of job cuts began after May 2009 when the auction house was still reported to employ 1,900 people worldwide. One of the auction house's rainmakers in the sale of impressionist and modern art, Guy Bennett, resigned from the auction house just prior to the beginning of the summer 2009 sales season. Although the economic downturn has encouraged some collectors to sell art, others are unwilling to sell in a market which may yield only bargain prices. Today equals. Frenchwoman Madame Patricia Barbizet was appointed Chief Executive Officer of Christie unregistered trademark S in 2014, the first female CEO of the company. As of 2012, Impressionist works, which dominated the market during the 1980s boom, have been replaced by contemporary art as Christie's top category. Asian art was the third most lucrative area. With income from classic auctioneering falling, treaty sales made a £413.4 million in the first half of 2012, an increase of 53% on the same period last year. They now represent more than 18% of turnover. Commissions: from 2008 until 2013, Christie's charged 25% for the first $50,000. 20% on the amount between $50,001 and $1 million, and 12% on the rest. From 2013, it charged 25% for the first $75,000. 20% on the next $75,001 to $1.5 million and 12% on the rest. Locations: Christie's main London sales room is on King Street in St James's, where it has been based since 1823. It has a second London sales room in South Kensington which opened in 1975 and primarily handles the middle market. Christie's South Kensington is one of the world's busiest auction rooms. In 1977, Christie's opened a branch on New York's Park Avenue, with a sales room accommodating about 600 people. Increasingly cramped for space, the auction house signed a 30-year lease in 1997 for a 300,000 square foot space in Rockefeller Center for $40 million. Until 2001, Christie's East, a division that sold lower-priced art and objects, was located at 219 East 67th Street. In 1996, Christie's bought a townhouse on East 59th Street in Manhattan as a separate gallery where experts could show clients art in complete privacy to conduct private treaty sales. Christie's opened a Beverly Hills sales room in 1997. As of January 2009, Christie's had 85 offices in 43 countries, including New York City, Los Angeles, Paris, Geneva, Houston, Amsterdam, Moscow, Vienna, Buenos Aires, Berlin, Rome, South Korea, Milan, Madrid, Japan, China, Australia, Hong Kong, Singapore, Bangkok, Tel Aviv, Dubai, and Mexico City. In 1995, Christie's became the first international auction house to exhibit works of art in Beijing, China. Price-fixing scandal. In 2000, allegations surfaced of a price-fixing arrangement between Christie's and Sotheby's, another major auction house. Executives from Christie's subsequently alerted the Department of Justice of their suspicions of commission-fixing collusion. Christie's gained immunity from prosecution in the United States as a longtime employee of Christie's confessed and cooperated with the U.S. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Numerous members of Sotheby's senior management were fired soon thereafter, and A. Alfred Taubman, the largest shareholder of Sotheby's at the time, took most of the blame. He and Deed Brooks were given jail sentences, and Christie's, Sotheby's and their owners also paid a civil lawsuit settlement of $512 million. Notable auctions. In 1987, during the Royal Albert Hall auction, Christie's famously auctioned off a Bugatti Royale automobile for a world record price of £5.5 million. In May 1989, Pontormo's portrait of a halberdier was sold to the J. Paul Getty Museum for $35.2 million, more than tripling the previous auction record for an old master painting. In 1998, Christie's in New York sold the famous Archimedes palimpsest after the conclusion of a lawsuit in which its ownership was disputed. In November 1999, a single-strand necklace of 41 natural and graduated pearls, which belonged to Barbara Hutton, was auctioned by Christie's Geneva for $1,476,000. In June 2001, Elton John sold 20 of his cars at Christie's, saying he didn't get the chance to drive them because he was out of the country so often. The sale, which included a 1993 Jaguar XJ220, the most expensive at £234,750, and several Ferraris, Rolls-Royces, and Bentleys, raised nearly £2 million. In 2006, a single Imperial Qing Dynasty porcelain bowl, another item which belonged to Barbara Hutton, was auctioned by Christie's Hong Kong for a price of $22,240,000. May 16, 2006, Christie's auctioned a Stradivarius called the Hammer for a record $3,544,000. It was, at that time, the most paid at public auction for any musical instrument. In October 2006, Christie's auctioned 1,000 lots of official Star Trek contents from the CBS Paramount Television studios. A model of the Starship Enterprise D, used in Star Trek, The Next Generation and Star Trek Generations sold for $500,000. In November 2006, 4 celebrated paintings by Gustav Klimt were sold for a total of $192 million, after being restituted by Austria to Jewish heirs after a lengthy legal battle. In December 2006, the black dress worn by Audrey Hepburn in the film Breakfast at Tiffany's was sold for £467,200 at Christie's South Kensington. In 2006, Christie's lists for auction artifacts known to be looted from Bulgaria and refuses to stop the sale despite strong evidence from the Bulgaria's Culture Ministry. Continuing to dominate the global market for fine arts, Christie's staged the 5 largest auctions of all time in November 2006, and May and June 2007. In May 2007, Christie's Paris auctioned L'Enfant et l'Art, a Love and Art Children's Foundation collection created by children afflicted with cancer under the guidance of artist à la copyright Sia de Menezes Nigella. The art collection of 21 paintings auctioned by Section Wa Curiel, president of Christie's Europe, raised $350,000 for the children of Les Petits Cracks, a Parisian association dedicated to caring for children with cancer. Prior to the auction, the L'Enfant et l'Art collection exhibited at Les Arts d'Art Copyright Correctifs in the Louvre Palace. In November 2007, an album of 8 leaves, ink on paper, by China's Ming Dynasty court painter Dong Qushang was sold at the Christie's Hong Kong Chinese Paintings auction for $6,235,500, a world auction record for the artist. In 2008, the ink and wash painting of Gundam drawn by Hisashi in 2005 was sold in the Christie's auction held in Hong Kong with a price of $600,000. On May 24, 2008, Le Bassin au Nempire copyrights by Claude Monet was sold for a price of $80.4 million, the highest price ever for a Monet. Over a three-day sale in Paris in February 2009, Christie's auctioned the monumental private collection of Yves Saint Laurent and Pierre Berger copyright for a record-breaking €370 million. It was the most expensive private collection ever sold at auction, breaking auction records for Brassens and CUE unregistered trademark I, Matisse, and Mondrian. A dragon's armchair by Irish furniture designer Eileen Gray sold for €21.9 million, setting an auction record for a piece of 20th-century decorative art. The 2009 auction of two imperial bronze zodiac sculptures collected by Yves Saint Laurent, looted in 1860 from the Old Summer Palace of Beijing by French and British forces at the close of the Second Opium War, caused controversy. Christie's has auctioned artwork and personal possessions linked to historical figures such as Pablo Picasso, Rembrandt, Diana, Princess of Wales, Leonardo da Vinci, Vincent van Gogh, Napoleon Bonaparte, Marilyn Monroe, and others. Christie's Hong Kong, November 2009 sale of fine modern Chinese paintings, sold a work by Fu Baoshi titled Landscape inspired by Du Fu's poetic sentiments, for $60,020,000 Hong Kong dollars, a world record for the artist. Christie's auctioned Pablo Picasso's nude, green leaves and bust on May 4, 2010. The piece sold for $106.5 million, making the sale among the most expensive paintings ever sold. On June 14, 2010, Amidio Modigliani's Tartee, a limestone sculpture of a woman's head, became the second most expensive sculpture ever sold and the most expensive work of art sold in France. On April 18, 2012, the Silver Cup given to the marathon winner, Greek athlete Spiridon Louis, at the first modern Olympic Games staged in Athens in 1896 sold for £541,250, breaking the auction record for Olympic memorabilia. On June 22, 2012, George Washington S. personal annotated copy of the Acts passed at a Congress of the United States of America from 1789, which includes the Constitution of the United States and a draft of the Bill of Rights, was sold at Christie's for a record $9,826,500, with fees the final cost, to the Mount Vernon Ladies Association. This was the record for a document sold at auction. On November 12, 2013, Francis Bacon's Three Studies of Lucian Freud sold for $142.4 million to an unnamed buyer, nominally becoming the most expensive work of art ever to be sold at auction. On May 11, 2015, Pablo Picasso's Les Femmes d'Alger sold for $179.3 million to an unnamed buyer, nominally becoming fourth most expensive work of art ever to be sold at auction. Christie's Fine Art Storage Services. Christie's first ventured into storage services for outside clients in 1984, when it opened a 100,000 square feet brick warehouse in London that was granted exempted status by Revenue and Customs, meaning that property may be imported into the United Kingdom and stored without incurring import duties and VAT. Christie's Fine Art Storage Services, or CFASS, is a wholly owned subsidiary that runs Christie's storage operation. In September 2008, Christie's signed a 50-year lease on an early 1900s warehouse of the historic New York Dock Company in Red Hook, Brooklyn, and subsequently spent $30 million converting it into a six-story, 250,000 square feet art storage facility. The facility opened in 2010 and features high-tech security and climate controls that maintain a virtually constant 70° and 50% relative humidity. Since 2009, Christie's has been the main tenant of the Singapore Freeport, taking up 40% of the space to offer its fine art storage services to its global clients. Located near the Upper Bay Tidal Waterway near the Atlantic Ocean, the Brooklyn facility was hit by at least one storm surge during Hurricane Sandy in 2012. CFASS subsequently faced client defections and complaints arising from damage to works of art. In 2013, AXA Art Insurance filed a lawsuit in New York court alleging that CFASS gross negligence during the hurricane-damaged art collected by late cellist Gregory Artaguski and his wife Jacqueline Rebecca Louise de Rothschild. Later that year, StarNet Insurance Company, the insurer for the Leroy Neiman Foundation and the artist's estate, also filed a lawsuit in New York Supreme Court claiming that the storage company's negligence caused more than $10 million in damages to Neiman's art. Christie's International Real Estate. Christie's clients who buy and sell works of art often request real estate services. To satisfy this demand, Great Estates, founded in 1987, was acquired by the auction house in 1995. Christie's International Real Estate is a wholly owned subsidiary of Christie's, and is the leading international network of real estate brokers dedicated to the marketing and sale of luxury properties. The network spans more than 40 countries worldwide, with 9,500 offices and approximately 27,500 sales associates. Christie's International Real Estate have been involved with some of the world's most high-profile residential property transactions, including a New York penthouse on Central Park West for a reported $88 million as well as the sale of Copper Beach Farm in Greenwich, Connecticut, for $120 million. Christie's Education Graduate Programs. The educational arm of Christie's auction house is called Christie's Education. It offers graduate programs in London, its headquarters, and non-degree programs in London, Paris, New York and Melbourne. It has colleges in London and New York accredited by the University of Glasgow in the UK and the New York State Board of Regents in the USA. It offers master's degrees, graduate diplomas, art business certificates and an undergraduate degree. Courses include, Arts of China, Arts of Europe, Art, Style and Design, Modern and Contemporary Art and History of Art and the Art Market. Evening programs in art business and part-time certificates in continuing education are also offered in London and New York. Ventures. Christie's Images is the picture library for the auction house and has an archive of several million fine and decorative art images representing items sold in its sale rooms around the world. With offices in New York and London, images are available for reproduction. With Bonhams, Christie's is a shareholder in the London-based Art Loss Register, a privately owned database used by law enforcement services worldwide to trace and recover stolen art. References. Bibliography. J. Herbert, Inside Christie's, London, 1990, P. A. Coulson, The Story of Christie's, London, 1950, H. C. Marilia, Christie's, 1766 Euro 1925, London, 1926, M. A. Michael, A Brief History of Christie's Education. London, 2008, W. Roberts, Memorials of Christie's, 2 vols, London, 1897. External links. Official website, Christie's Education Graduate Programs. Official website, Christie's International Real Estate. Euro Luxury Properties and Estates. Official website, Christie's page on Arcadia Art Database with several auction catalogues. Bill Brooks. Euro Daily Telegraph. Obituary, Christie's Fine Art Storage Services. Euro Official website.